Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto Naruto Next Generation discussion on the fallout from Boruto chapter 80, and today I wanted to take time to dive deeper into the significance we have of Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan awakening, revealing her sun pattern Mangekyou, and this is huge for more reasons than just Sarada's potential Mangekyou Sharingan powers, and how her awakening loosely mirrors that of a Shinto myth that Masashi Kishimoto has used in Naruto's manga before, which we've gone over in detail in a couple of videos that you see on screen now, but it also confirms something that fans have been speculating on for a while now, well over 2 years. Sarada is linked not just to Ada but also Daemon, and in today's video I want to explain to you why that is and dive deeper than just the narrative hints that we've had that suggest Sarada versus Ada and Daemon might be a thing that we see in the future, but instead look at how the deeper information is setting up for a symbolic interaction that could either turn non-violent or extremely violent depending on which path it takes. So the Sarada versus Ada thing has been something that many fans have thought possible from as far back as when Ada first got introduced, if for no other reason than female antagonist fights against female hero because gender. However, that became even more of the chatter in the community because of the mission that Shikamaru gave to Sumire and Sarada due to them being immune to Ada's control powers, saying that they had to be the ones who had the task of taking down Ada if she ever got viewed as being a threat to the Hidden Leaf Village itself. From that moment on, people have said that this was destined to happen, though I offered a different stance in a video where I covered this idea, and I suggested that it was more likely that Sarada's offer of friendship is something that is taken up by Ada, and the reason why is because of what we're about to dive into. At the time I made that video, I didn't plant my flag down on what I'm about to go over now because I was uncertain if Sarada would keep her sun pattern Mangekyou that Kishimoto drew in 2015. But now that we know that this is the case, that it's here to stay, it changes everything and places a symbolic connection between Sarada, Ada, and Daemon. So being blunt, Sarada's sun pattern Mangekyou is a nod to the Japanese Shinto goddess Amaterasu. Sarada, by having awoken Mangekyou in both eyes, will get access to Susanoo, which is another Shinto god mostly known for storms but also marriage and love, something that we've been linking strongly to Sarada for years now here on the channel. However, Ada and Daemon come into play because there's something more to them than just being the meanings behind their names. As I broke down in the video on the hidden meanings behind the car inners, where I pointed out the tech puns and how the tech puns to each of their names went into their powers and personalities, Daemon being a pun on the Daemon computer program that runs in the background, and Ada being a pun on the first computer programmer Ada Lovelace. However, there's a Shinto connection with both of these characters that has not been looked at, that we now have enough information to see that it's intentional, and the combination of honoring Ukyo Kodachi's idea to give the car inners names that have tech puns while also mixing in Kishimoto's signature of using Shinto and Asian culture and mythology in his writing. Ada and Daemon are the Shinto siblings Amaterasu and Susanoo, which is poetic when we consider both of these Shinto siblings are deeply rooted in the Uchiha clan via the Mangekyou Sharingan powers that we've seen in this series. As we break all this down, you'll see why I say it's right in your face, and for anyone saying this is a coincidence, I'll come back and say again, Naruto's manga for 72 volumes literally incorporated Shinto and Samsara repeatedly. That's not something done by a coincidence, it's intentional by the author. 1 or 2 times, that's mere happenstance. When it's done for 72 volumes over 14 years repeatedly, that's intentional. Surface level, Amaterasu is the female older sibling, just as Ada is the female older sibling. Susanoo is the uncontrollable, wild, impulsive, impetuous younger brother who can be a bit reckless at times, just as Daemon is all those things, and he's also Ada's younger brother. However, let's go even deeper here than just the surface level. Amaterasu has in some stories been cautious of her brother, and there have been issues between those two siblings in the past, just as Ada was very reluctant to awaken Daemon, keeping him a secret until the last possible moment, and she even went out her way to say that she had hoped to avoid this and that he was the one person who could actually kill her. Susanoo and Amaterasu, while siblings, they've had a very turbulent past when you look at the mythology, with Susanoo at one point getting so enraged at Amaterasu that he destroyed her rice fields and he purposely killed one of her favorite attendants by throwing a horse that attendant's head. And Susanoo, the reason Amaterasu seals herself inside of a cave at one point, which is going to start bringing us closer to Sarada now. And if you watch the Sarada Mangekyou Sharingan video, you know exactly why I say that. When we first get introduced to Ada, Code has traveled to the land of snow to awaken her and has to do so by entering into Boro's hideout, which just happens to be inside of a cave where Ada is blocked off to the world, just as Amaterasu was blocked off to the world as well. After she gets out of the chamber, one of the first things we see her do is look into a mirror while she's in the bathroom, which is very important. One of the first things we see Amaterasu do in one of her stories is when she's sealed in the cave. When she gets out of the cave, the first thing she does is look into the mirror at her own reflection. In the story, one of the gods connected to Amaterasu is able to lure her out the cave by using that mirror. That god was Ameno Uzui, which is the deity that we use in the Sarada Mangekyou Sharingan powers video as a basis for one of Sarada's potential Mangekyou Sharingan powers. Sarada being told she's going to be counted on to take on Ada, and her having the Mangekyou of a sun pattern for the goddess, who Ada has aspects of her personality and the relationships and the situations pattern after, that's not by mistake. Ada's eyes, when you first look at them, you say this is a crescent moon, but that's not the only thing that her eyes are similar to. They're also similar to a solar eclipse, which occurs when the moon passes between the earth and the sun, which is brilliant symbolism because it's a case where both things are true. It's patterned after a crescent moon, the same moon that would pass between the earth and the sun, but it's also patterned after a phase of the solar eclipse itself, which goes back to the Amaterasu, the sun goddess. Sarada's eye is that of a full sun versus Ada's eye is both a crescent moon as well as a phase of the solar eclipse itself. Both have links to the sun, and when you go the route of the interpretation of it being a crescent moon, it fits into the narrative of Sarada having to oppose Ada, just as the crescent moon and the sun would be seen during opposite times of the day. It's pretty clever when you look at it, and it's something that fits into both narratives, and it also fits into what Masashi Kishimoto's done in the past, using multiple aspects of one source and blending them together to fit into the story itself. It's not the first time we've seen a design being introduced that had a dual meaning to it, which is fitting because just as he uses deranged kanji to have hidden meanings to them, that are structured purposely to have a hidden word layout to them to take advantage of the 3 lettering systems in Japanese, it's the same thing here, and it goes back to Naruto's signature phrase, which is that a ninja must see through deception, or in this case, a ninja must see the hidden meaning behind the hidden meaning. This brings me to the Ameno Uzumi connection. She was the goddess who lured Amaterasu out the cave so as to allow the other gods with her to capture her, so as to bring light back to the world. Ada has casted the world under the Shinjutsu, and according to Momoshiki, there's no way for it to be reversed, but Momoshiki is also an unreliable narrator due to everything that he said is him trying to drive Boruto into despair so that he can take control of his body. So we don't know if the Shinjutsu itself can be reversed, but if we look at the Shinto inspiration behind Ada as well as Sarada's sun pattern, Mangekyou Sharingan, there potentially is a way to reverse it. Again, Momoshiki's an unreliable narrator. I think just as Ameno Uzui found a non-aggressive way to lure out Amaterasu, Sarada is going to find a non-aggressive way or play a role in a non-aggressive way to make Ada switch from being Team Kawaki to being Team Boruto. Ada agreed to let Boruto go, and she promised not to give away his location, but that was only because she felt guilty for what she put him through. She's not Team Boruto. Her not tracking Boruto came on the condition that he doesn't return to Konoha. There's just an understanding, but that does not make them allies. I do believe that when the time comes, Sarada will have a major role in getting Ada to see the light and truly become an ally to Boruto with no conditions itself, because she's offering her the one thing that Ada's never been able to get her entire life after Amato experimented on her body, which is a true, genuine connection with someone who wasn't her brother or a blood relative. Sarada is offering friendship, which is important. Looking at her with the Mangekyou Sharingan eye, the eye that reflects the heart. That takes place of Amaterasu being bedazzled by the beautiful gems in the mirror that she saw that Ameno Uzumi used to lure her out of the cave. I do think that we're onto something here. There might be a few pieces that haven't fallen all the way into place yet, but I do think that we're onto something with this. The wild card in all this is going to be Daemon, which is fitting because Daemon has traits of Susanoo. And from the very moment he's debuted, he's been a dark horse candidate for a lot of people who say he might turn on Ada one day, he might betray her at some point. That remains to be seen if that's the case, but if things do take a turn for the more violent, it's the second part of the Amaterasu story that we haven't covered, where the gods with Ameno Uzume had to use force to restrain Amaterasu to keep her from going back into the cave. There might be a situation where force is needed to deal with these two siblings. Originally, the plan was to have Sarada and Sumire versus Ada and Boruto and Kawaki versus Daemon, but now Boruto's out the village and Kawaki has no reason to attack Daemon, especially under the circumstance such as this where Sarada would be clearly an enemy to both because she would know the truth about Kawaki and Sarada might end up having to turn aggressive towards Ada, which would then in turn make her an enemy to Daemon. That could be the line that's drawn here, a Mangekyou Sharingan user potentially in conflict, either physical or non-violent, with two characters who are inspired by two powers of the Mangekyou that we've seen people in Sarada's bloodline use so far, i.e. Amaterasu and the Susanoo. However, I'm curious to know how you guys feel about this. Do you agree with me that Sarada will take a non-violent approach to Ada like the Ameno Uzume story did with Amaterasu, or do you think a battle with Daemon and Ada is inevitable after the time skip? Well, you think that over, click here to watch my every Hashira rank from weakest to strongest over on KRYPTONIAN SAIYAN.